Xi Jinping met with Vladimir Putin this week. It's the 40th time they've met in the past decade, which makes me sad because it's more often than I visited my own parents. Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow gave Russia a major boost, but at least there was no public promise of China giving Russia weapons. Yeah, no public promise. But it wouldn't be surprising to find that Russia is getting weapons from China. After all, they've cooked together, they've given each other friendship necklaces, they've tamed horses that many said were unbreakable. What a team! And now they're hailing a new era of ties in a united front against the West. It's beautiful. Or it would be if it didn't lead to the killing of Ukrainian civilians. That reminds me, I should go visit my parents. But after 2 days of hanging out together in Moscow, Xi Jinping and Putin had to say goodbye. And in a cryptic departing gesture, Xi told Putin that change is a-coming. Changes not seen for 100 years.
Это как раз сейчас перемены, которые не было в течение 100 лет. Там вместе двигаем эти перемены. Перекиньте, пожалуйста, дорогой друг.
Something we haven't seen in 100 years? Are they gonna bring flappers back in fashion? 100 years ago, in 1923, the Bolshevik Revolution concluded in Russia, so maybe it's communism that's coming back in fashion. That makes me nervous. Not the 100 years thing. I mean the part where Putin wishes Xi a safe trip. I'd be terrified if Putin wished me a safe trip. And in that same vein, I'd wish Putin a safe trip if he ever goes to Europe, because the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Putin over Russia's alleged war crimes in Ukraine. Those crimes involve stealing Ukrainian children and placing them in camps across Russia. This ruling effectively means Putin can never again travel to most countries without the risk of being arrested. I'm sure he can still travel to China, though, because while kidnapping children and putting them in camps is a war crime in most places, for the Chinese Communist Party, it's just a hobby. At least the U.S. is finally recognizing that China is not an impartial actor in the Russia-Ukraine war. Here's White House National Security spokesman John Kirby.
I don't think you can reasonably look at China as impartial in any way. They haven't condemned this this invasion. They haven't stopped buying Russian oil and Russian energy. President Xi saw fit to fly all the way to Moscow. Hasn't talked once to President Zelensky, hasn't visited Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Zelensky is like, hey, Xi, I haven't met you and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me, maybe. But it's worse than China just not being impartial. There's evidence that China is already providing guns to Russia. Specifically, Chinese companies providing guns to Russian companies. I did an episode about that earlier this week on my other channel, America Uncovered. The link is below. But somehow, that doesn't cross a red line for the U.S.
We haven't seen any confirmation or indication that the Chinese have provided lethal weapons, lethal capabilities to the Russian Ministry of Defense throughout this conflict.
Yeah, it's only a problem if China gives weapons directly to the Russian Ministry of Defense. So now China knows what to do. Use private companies, because there's no way the authoritarian governments in China and Russia would control companies in their countries. What do you think they are, authoritarians? Even Stevie Wonder could see this loophole.